Okay, this is the tutorial for Excel Lesson 7. As you can see my screen, I have a spreadsheet of information. It looks like it's an employee information. I pulled this from curriculum. I'm not sure why these are not capitalized, but we're not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to go through some formatting things that you'll have to do on your assignment, just as a reminder. If you want to change font, you do it here. You want to change size, you do it here. If it's a number that's not listed, you can type it in manually. You can go up and down with these in size like this. Bolding, italics, and underline. If you want to apply borders, fill color, or font color. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this, let's say with a green. And I'm going to change the font to navy. All right, so that kind of looks silly. I would like to extend it across these 7 cells, and I'm going to use this merge and center button. Notice that it copied the formatting across, which is nice. All right, and I'm also going to apply all borders to that. So if I click out, you can see there is a line around those borders. All right, if the font were a little smaller, let me show you this. And let's say that I wanted my box to be double the size. All right, so I have a large row with font sitting at the bottom. This is where I'm going to discuss alignment. Now we know how to left, center, right, but notice above it there are vertical alignments. Do you want it on the top? Do you want it in the center? Or do you want it sitting at the bottom? So these top 3 alignments are vertical alignments. These bottom 3 alignments are horizontal alignments. Horizontal goes side to side, vertical goes top to bottom. So I'm going to leave that right in the middle with a center alignment for vertical and horizontal. Okay. Now, in Excel, when you have a spreadsheet, you can make it look nice. Okay, so right here, come over to the cells group. We're going to talk about cell styles. If you hover over these, now notice over here, my cell that is selected will show you an example of what the cell looks like. You could have title, total, headings. These are accents. Some have a percentage because they are less color. Some are a straight accent. Name, you could do number formats, etc. Okay, so I'm going to select my row 2, come over to cell styles, and I'm going to give it, let's say, I like heading 2. All right, so I applied heading 2 style. Notice it changed the font size, it bolded it, applied a little bit of border. The rest of the text, I'm going to select, and I'm going to come up to that same cell styles, and I'm going to apply accent 20%, accent 6, 20%. All right, and I'm going to apply all borders. So that looks nice, don't you think? Okay, so I've applied cell styles and borders. All right, now I've been given a list, and notice that they have name, address, city, state, zip, phone number, and a column that says in state. What does that mean? So we need to figure if we're going to look at column D. This is the state column. We need to ask a question. Is this data in state or not? Okay, so there's some questions that you can ask in Excel, mostly if they're yes, no questions. You could say, is this cell in state or not? Okay, and that is called, let me write a little note over here, an if function. So an if function asks question, then according to the data, answers that question. Okay, so let's look at this. When we're doing math, remember we always say equals first. Okay, we're doing a function. It's not necessarily math, but we're using function. So we need to say equals. And we're going to start typing, just like when we learned how to do average, we're going to start typing if. Okay, see this is if. And the explanation right here checks whether a condition is met and returns a value of true and another is false. Okay, so I'm going to double click. Okay, now notice this is what I want my equation or my formula to look like. So if, parentheses, then I click on the location I want to look at. If cell D3 is, and I'm using a comma for is, and because I'm using text, I need to use quotes. So if D3 is Idaho, type, then I want it to, oh, forgive me, this should be an equals. If D3 is equals. If D3 is Idaho, then it is in state. If not, it is out of state. Okay, so I'm asking a question, fixing my mistakes. Okay, if D3 equals Idaho, then is a comma, and because I'm dealing with words, I have to have it in quotes. If D3 is Idaho, then I want it to say in state. If it's not, I want it to say out of state, and then I close the comma. And if I hit enter, the answer that I should get is in state because it says Idaho. Okay, so just like on an equals 1 plus 3, my answer's here and my formula is here. Okay, so this one right here does not say Idaho, right? So if I copied this down using my fill handle, see how it says out of state? I'm going to double click, which forces this formula all the way down. And let's see if it answers the questions correctly. Okay, so in-state, Idaho. Out of state, Georgia, New York. In-state, Idaho. Out of state, Florida. So it did. And I'm going to extend this column by double clicking to fit the data. Okay, so it did it correctly. That's awesome. Now let's use some numbers. Over here, I'll do an example. Let's say this is $4. This is $6. This is 10. This is 20. This is 40. Okay, so let's do some if functions with numbers. So if, double click. If this cell, and now let's go back to our symbols in math that are greater or less than. Let's say if cell I7 is less than 10, ooh, I don't know if I can use dollar signs. We'll just try it out. Then let's have it say cheap. If not, let's say expensive. Okay, so it's saying I can't use my dollar sign. Okay, so it corrected it for me. That little error message took out my dollar sign. Okay, so let's copy this down. Good, so it answers it correctly. These are all more than $4, and this is less than $4, or $10, excuse me. Okay, let's try something different. Let's say if it's a boy or a girl. Okay. If the cell equals boy, then let's say blue. If not, let's say pink. Okay, enter and copy that down. Okay, see, this is my formula and this is my answer. That is awesome. Okay, so those are if functions. And today's assignment, you're going to practice those. Okay. All right, the last thing for this assignment, well, there's two more things actually. I want to sort this list. You can come over here to the sort button on the top right, and with whatever your cursor is in, if you just hit sort, it's going to sort by that column, okay? So it did it alphabetically by default, right? And maybe I want to do it by zip code. So I come over here and sort. Let's do largest to smallest, okay? Now, if I only wanted to sort a bit of data, let's say 15 through 20, rows 15 through 20, I can come up here and I can say sort custom. And I could say I would like to sort column C, A to Z, and hit OK. All right, so it only sorted that data. Another thing you might want to take into consideration is if I want to sort all of this data, and I'm going to select all my rows, come back up here. Notice that my rows have headers. They have titles above the columns. So if I come up here to custom and see how this says my data has headers, and I check that box, instead of sort by columns A, B, C, D, E, it has the actual name of my column. So if I say state and say OK, now my data is sorted again by state, just in a different way. Okay. All right, the last thing is worksheets. I introduced this to you the other day. When you work with worksheets, you're given a worksheet tab down here at the bottom, and you can add tabs, kind of like pages to a book, sheet 2, 3, 4. So if I come back down here to sheet 1, I can right-click on that sheet 1. I can change the color. So if I click off of it, see how it's blue? Let's change this one to orange. It's a muted color when it's active, but you can apply color. I can also rename. So let's say employee list, okay, and just click off of it and it changes the name. And if I wanted to copy the data, I could right click, I could say move or copy, and then I could say, where do you want to move it? Well, I want to create a copy and I want to move it to the end. Okay, let's say okay. Let me hide this. All right, so now I've got my sheets, and at the end, it's copied this data. Okay, so sheet 4, copied list. If I want to rename this, say copy list. I can also click and drag to move. See, there's like a little arrow following me around. I can move this information if I wanted to. And that is worksheets within a workbook. All right. Okay, that's a lot of information. If you have questions about anything, please pause and replay. These if functions will be part of your final exam that's coming up, I think, next week. So make sure that you understand it. If you have any questions, email me or ask me in class. All right, have a good one.